Hello, how are you? Wow, it's Friday again. How is that possible? This week has absolutely flown by. Tonight I'm streaming live to Facebook and also to my YouTube page as well. And before I get started, it goes without saying that if you have any questions at all, as I start talking about this very important question about what you should wear when you're presenting on stage, then please do ask and I will answer them. And this video will obviously be available after this workshop on my YouTube page and also on my Facebook group. And please do comment below the video again if there's anything that you want me to go over or any questions that you have. But let's get stuck into this. This is a really common question that I get asked. What should I wear? Now, for me, it's a really, really important question. I personally think if you want to be taken seriously as a presenter, then you've got to get serious. And one of the things you have to be serious about is what you wear. Now, after this video, what I can promise you is you will know exactly what you should wear when you present in front of any audience. But there are some key learnings that I'm going to take from people that I've worked with and famous people that you may recognize, just as a way of getting you to really look at what people do, so what presenters do in terms of what they wear and why they wear what they wear, so you can start applying some of those same things to yourself when you go on stage to perform. So if we can bring up the next slide, please. So one of the things that I get asked all the time is, why is it important what I wear? I just want to be like Steve Jobs and just wear whatever. Well, the reason I often use this image when I'm doing training is it's an absolute farce if you think that he didn't think about what he wore. He absolutely thought about what he wore. I don't think anybody who knows about his performance process in terms of the amount of dedicated time he spent to rehearsals, to preparation, once you start to read about that, or you know people who worked with him, you'd understand that he absolutely thought about what he wore. But the other reason that I wanted to use that picture is what I'm going to talk about throughout this is you will notice his microphone on that picture is actually on the outside of his shirt, and that is really, really unusual. But it's a helpful picture because it can highlight the microphone for me, because I really, really want you to think about that as you watch this video, and I'm going to be talking about the microphone a lot because it's one of the reasons that as a presenter you really need to think about what you are wearing. So when you see this image of Steve Jobs, realize that is very, very unusual for a microphone to be placed on the outside of your shirt. It would typically be placed on the inside. Okay, so I want to show you a picture of somebody that I had the pleasure of working with, and her name is Christine Lagarde. And she is currently the president of the European Central Bank. And when I worked with her, she was the head, she was at Baker McKenzie. And one of the things that Christine did that I would encourage you to do is, if you are presenting somewhere, say you've been invited to present, or maybe it's, I don't know, it could be any form of presentation. You don't have to be invited, but I would encourage you, whatever it is, to take options with you when it comes to what to wear. So if you are unsure about what to wear, the best piece of advice I can give you is to take options. Now, this is something that Christine did, and in particular, I'm talking about a video that I did with her, and she brought several options with her. So she was never going to be in that awful situation where A, she felt like she wasn't dressed correctly, and B, she was slightly uncertain and wanted the crew's advice, and that is great. And that is something you can do as well. So don't feel like you have to turn up to an event completely ready to go. You can take options with you. Far, far better to do that than to arrive on site and feel like you're dressed completely, like, inappropriately for how everyone else is dressed. So I would take options with you. It can really help in terms of if you're a bit nervous, just to make you feel better. So do as Christine did and take options. Don't feel like you just have to take the thing you're wearing. The other thing that I want to note about Christine, again, I'm going to be, as I said, talking about the microphone. You can just see right at the bottom of her jacket, that microphone, that black bit is the head of the microphone. And typically, that is where a microphone will be placed if you are wearing a jacket. Now, the great thing about men's jackets is, for whatever reason, they've got an inside pocket. And you can put the battery pack of a microphone in there and then clip the head of the microphone to the jacket. Perfect. And incidentally, when it comes to a microphone, we're always looking for a central sound, so that you can pick up the voice wherever the person is moving and not to the side where you're really only going to get their voice if they move their head one way. So you're always looking for it to be kind of central. But if you have got a jacket on, it would typically go there in the center. For men whose jackets have an inside pocket, the microphone pack would go in the inside pocket. And for women, it would go typically on the back of the trousers. And for a lot of men, it's that way as well. It's really how the individual feels. So this next picture of Christine is of her at that same event, and she is walking across the stage. And why that image is important to me is for that point about the microphone pack. I would say if you are a woman presenting on a stage where you know you are going to be wearing a microphone, I would always say wear something with a waistband so that you definitely have somewhere to put that microphone. Because if you don't, and you turn up, for instance, in a dress, you have to think, where is that microphone pack going to be placed? And it's quite a heavy thing. It's what contains the battery and the aerial. So Christine really thought about what she wore when she was on stage, pretty much always in a suit jacket or something that she can have the microphone put onto. She also tends to wear a scarf to cover up the neck. A lot of women at a certain age do that same thing. And also she tends to wear shoes that are of a relatively low heel. And again, that's because you're walking across stages. And stages are almost always carpeted, and carpet is slippy. And it's a bit awkward if you've got a very high heel on. So again, I would encourage people to wear a lower heel. You don't want to be doing that staggering walk across the stage. You want to be wearing something that is comfortable and something that you can walk easily in. Now, this next person is somebody that I was fortunate to work with quite a lot when I used to do work for Microsoft. And his name is Steve Ballmer. Excuse me. Steve is a fantastic presenter. Now here, the lesson from Steve is he also used to bring different outfits with him. But he was a really, really good, he was really, really good at dressing for his audience. Excuse me. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Have some water. Oh, excuse me. Hay fever, otherwise known as allergies in the US. Oh, it's that time of year. Anyway, Steve Ballmer, fantastic presenter, but he always used to bring a change of clothes with him. And he was great at dressing for the audience. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is he was great at mirroring his audience. So in this image here, this is typically what he would be wearing when he was talking to employees. This was when he was the CEO at Microsoft. And he would be kind of business casual, that classic Microsoft look, that chino and jumper shirt look. And he very much used to echo what the majority of the audience would be wearing. And that is another really good tip. If you're not sure what to wear, think about what the audience will be wearing. Now, I'm not saying you have to dress like them exactly, but what I mean by it is if, for instance, you are going to talk to a room full of bankers. Now, if we're in the UK, the bankers would tend to be in suits almost always, and typically in a tie as well. You probably don't want to turn up in shorts, t-shirt and trainers. That's what I mean. So dressing in the way your audience dress, or what I like to say, mirroring your audience, is a really good tip when you're not sure about what to wear. And it is something that Steve Ballmer did all the time, because in this next image, you'll see he's wearing something completely different. And it wouldn't even surprise me, I don't think these images are, but in a typical day of working with him, he would go from wearing chinos, casual attire, to suit. And what he would do is that, he'd go from chinos during the employee briefing, for example, and then revert to suit for the partner event, where most of the audience would also have been in suits. So mirroring the audience when it comes to presenting is a really good tip when you don't know what to wear. And again, when you look at that image, you'll see that microphone in this case is on his tie, and the image before, it was clipped to the V-neck of his jumper. Now, if you are going to wear a jumper, wear a V-neck, because you can get the microphone on to the V there, whereas if you were wearing a jumper like I am here, it's a bit too high. I mean, you could do it, but you run the risk of the microphone rubbing. So really thinking about the microphone. And unlike Steve Jobs, you can see Steve Ballmer had that microphone lead up through his top and pinned out at the top, and that is exactly how the majority, 99.9% of sound technicians would place a microphone in that way. And the reason I keep mentioning the microphone is to really think about, when you are deciding what to wear, where that microphone is going to go. The last thing you want is to turn up on site, sound technician coming to you with a microphone, and you thinking, well, oh my goodness, where is this going to go? So if you are speaking at an event where there is any form of technician or technical equipment, microphone, then make sure you dress appropriately for that. And if you're not sure if there will be a microphone, simply ask. It's a question an organizer will be able to tell you in an instant. So the next picture I want to show is of Michelle Obama, just to really echo that point about dressing for the audience. And you see here she is dressed in a suit, and this was for an interview on Breakfast News Television, and she is dressing appropriately for that audience and for the message as well that she's delivering. And when we compare that to another setting where she's at some form of rally, I think it was, and she is here, she is dressed in a t-shirt, jeans, and I would bet that the audience are dressed in the same kind of way. So professional presenters, famous people, they do this all the time when it comes to presenting in front of audiences, mirroring the audience. And I would encourage you to do the same. And if ever you find yourself questioning, what should I wear? Use that as your starting point. What will the audience be wearing? And you can quickly come up with an answer after that. Okay, so back to the slides there. So that was Michelle. Now, our next slide, this is a point that's a real stickler for me, and it's shoes. Make sure when you are deciding what it is that you're going to wear for your stage performance, your stage presentation, your public speaking opportunity, that you clean your shoes. Now, as I often say, the audience have made the effort to get dressed, get up, get out the door, get on public transport, fly maybe, to be at the venue where you are going to present. The least you can do is clean your shoes. But really, the important thing about cleaning your shoes, and then you don't have to be wearing business brogues like that. You could just be wearing trainers like this. But the point is, those trainers, or those brogues, those shoes, when you are presenting on a stage, shoes are very much in the eye line of the audience, because typically you're on a raised stage, okay? And whether you like it or not, people make assumptions, and we do this without even realizing we're doing it. It happens so quickly, we're wired to do it. And the last thing you want to do is have a dirty, scruffy pair of shoes in the audience's eye line, I promise you it will attract attention. The other reason that shoes are important is if you're on a panel discussion or a Q&A discussion where you're sat down. Again, shoes are in the audience's eye line. So think about that as well. It doesn't take much to just clean your shoes. Clean your shoes. Okay, so my next point, I've got these written down, which is why I'm just looking here. Okay, so next slide is really just a summary of what I've said there. So if you're unsure what to wear, dress appropriately for the audience, and that doesn't mean that you have to wear something that you're uncomfortable wearing. Okay, so I often present to corporate companies, and I've presented to banks. Very rarely would I wear a full-on suit, but when I do present to banks, then I will definitely wear business smart. When I've worked with technology companies, and in particular startup companies, I wouldn't wear a suit. I would typically wear something more casual. So I'm always thinking about what the audience are wearing and mirroring that, reflecting that. That doesn't mean I have to wear something that isn't comfortable to me. It's just I'm mirroring them in the genre of what I'm wearing, if you like. Okay, so the next point on that list, I didn't really touch on this because there's a whole other discussion on it that I could do, but make an effort would be what I would say. So think about your hair, shave, makeup. Another point about microphones, and I am talking about microphones a lot because there is such an impact on the microphone with what you're wearing. If you have very long hair, I would always suggest that you wear it up. The thing about a microphone is that anything that touches that microphone, so as I said, in this case, if I had this round neck on, it would be touching my skin here. Anything that touches that microphone will crackle, and that can really put you off, and hair can really do that. And also, if you're nervous in any way, women, they tend to like start fiddling with your hair, and it's just a distraction. So wear your hair up. A bit of makeup makes a big difference. I can make a whole other video on this, so I will just, briefly touch on that. And again, think microphone. I think I've made that really clear in this video, that the microphone is obviously important because it's what's being used so that everybody in the room can hear you. But you really need to think about that belt pack, which is typically kind of this size and quite heavy, and it will have a clip on it. Where's that going to clip to? Always try and have a waistband for that. Men, as I said, you can use your inside jacket. Clean your shoes. Please have clean shoes. That is such a stickler, such a point for me when I'm working with presenters. It's such a simple thing, but it does make a big difference. And this final point is something really important. So mirroring your audience, you can kind of gather what your audience are going to be wearing just by asking a few questions. So who will be in the audience? Where are they from? What business? What sector? You can kind of work out roughly. But if you're not sure, just always go for slightly smarter than you usually would. Because what I always say is far better for somebody to say, wow, she was smart, rather than, God, she could have made an effort. Do you know what I mean? Like, far better for you to be the smartest person in the room than for you to be the scruffiest person in the room. So if in doubt, always dress smarter. So those are my top tips when it comes to what to wear, and I hope that helps when it comes to, your next presentation or performance. I see we've got some questions here, and thank you, people. Thank you, everybody who's watching this on people. Thank you. I don't know why I said that. Thank you, everybody who is watching this on Facebook and also on YouTube. I have got some questions that have come in, so I'm going to try and answer those now. Great tip from Christine. Christine, thank you. Yeah, dressing to impress. According to your audience is the main point in this, and that's what I meant in some of the content that I've been releasing during the day. I think if you do that, if you think that, then you're never going to not know what to wear in the future. It's a fantastic tip, I think, if I may say so myself. And Fred was raised that if you're not sure what to wear, dress up, not down. Absolutely, Fred. That's what I think. I personally would much rather people think that I was dressed too smart than I couldn't be asked to make an effort. So those are my top tips really about what to wear. And there is lots more that I could say, but I think that's it. I think just keep it simple. And if there are no other questions, then I'm probably going to end this one there, because why keep gabbling on if I've said everything that I think I should say in that. What I would like to say, though, is I'm going to be doing lots more of these. I'm finding that when I read what people are putting on the YouTube page and Facebook, I'm kind of grasping on different questions that come up and thinking, oh, cool, I could do a little live, a little workshop on that to give you some tips to help with those points. So if there's anything that you would like me to cover or any questions that you've got, then please do post them in the Facebook group or on my YouTube video, under a YouTube video, and I could do that next time for you. It's Friday, isn't it? It's Friday. So I hope you all have a good weekend, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all washing your hands and touching your face. As I've always said over the past 3 or 4 weeks, the communities that I'm trying to make on YouTube and Facebook are very much positive places that you can come during this time and gain insight and inspiration and knowledge. So I hope you're enjoying these. And yeah, if you have any feedback at all, then please do share it with me. But other than that, have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week.